Let me tell you why flying on a plane is a lot like investing in financial planning. I'm Jerry Citarella. Jerry Citarella Presents with Prosperitas Financial. And I'm going on a plane tomorrow, flying to Las Vegas, going on a big podcast. We'll talk more about that later. But I wrote a newspaper column, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago when I used to write for the newspaper. And it was, why is flying on a plane like investing in financial planning? And it just kind of reminded me with the volatility we're having recently and me flying tomorrow. I was just thinking about that article. It's one of my favorites. There's two that were my favorites. I'll do the other one another time. But let me tell you about it. So, investing, financial planning, and flying on a plane. Now, when you walk into the airport, what typically happens before you get there? You plan, or maybe you don't plan. Maybe your wife plans and you don't plan, or vice versa. But there's always different ways that people handle the process of getting to the place. And some are more organized, some are less organized. And what's interesting, when you're in the airport, you can see it. You see a family walk in and you see, the husband or the wife has their tickets in hand, the other one's fumbling around, can't find their passport, can't find their driver's license, kids are screaming, or everybody's organized like little ducklings following the mama duck behind. It's just everybody's a little bit different, which means everybody goes into that process a little bit differently. Then you get into the airport, and then if there's an issue, what happens? Maybe one person remains calm, the other one gets a little freaked out, doesn't know how to handle the volatility as you're going through something. If maybe a flight got canceled, you're running a little bit late, you just start noticing things. And by the way, at the end of this, there's going to be one big thing that really resembles investing that I'll talk to you about. That's really kind of what started this article when I did it years ago. When you're on the plane. But again, going into the plane, the family dynamic is different. And again, one spouse is different than the other. And you start to see the relationship to investing where people just really aren't in agreement with the way they handle things. Some people can handle volatility better than others. Maybe one spouse says, we don't need to get there an hour before our flight. We can get there late, meaning they're just more aggressive and they want to take more risks the whole way. Then you start going through TSA, and some people look at that line and say, it's okay, it's part of the process. And then other people look at that line and just get frustrated because it's going too slow, or maybe they just think it's a stupid process. And again, everybody's handling things just a little bit differently. Now we get to the important part. Okay, so finally, you see people, they get on the plane, whether it's alone, because some people do this alone, flying or financial planning, whether it's just husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, girlfriend, whatever it might be, spouses, or a whole family, And then when it's your whole family, it's a little bit different because now you have to worry about others. So it's not just yourself, not just you and your spouse, but now you have to make sure that your children are okay as well, right? Kind of a lot like investing in financial planning. I know I'm going to be okay, but I need to make sure my kids are comfortable. I need to make sure they're strapped in. I need to make sure that they have the juices, the food they need. We need to make sure we get through this venture, this trip, this planning process successfully with them as well. So now you have to worry about everybody in your circle and make sure that everybody's taken care of and all contingencies are handled. So now is where it gets really interesting. And this is, again, when I was on a plane, this is why I wrote this article. Because as we were taking off, again, everybody handles it differently. Some people just sit back and they read, no big deal. Some people are a little nervous. And then, of course, like investing, some people say a prayer and hope it works out. You see that quite a bit. But as you're taking off, this is where I really noticed something. The plane takes off, and as everybody's handling things differently, everybody near the window at least looks out the window. And what I noticed is nobody looked out the window and looked up. They all looked out the window and looked down. Now, what did that tell me? It means we don't really have any concern. We know we can go up. That's easy, right? We know there's an elevation. We know there's this place we're going to go, probably. But why are we looking down? One, it's interesting down there, but two, it's also, what are you more concerned about, going up or going down? When you're in a plane, right? How far is it down? How far down can I go? And even though you might be looking at the view because it's interesting, in your mind, the concern that you have, and we all have it when we're on a plane. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable flying, but in the back of our mind, we all know this may not work out. And if it doesn't work out, do we think, or based on that, do we look more at how high we can go? Or do we look at how low we could possibly, or how far we could possibly fall? A lot like investing, whether you realize it or not. So A lot of people are always looking for the up, looking for the up, looking for the up. But I think the real concern is the down, and protecting your downside is a lot like investing. And a lot of people don't realize that when that downside happens, just think if you've ever been on a plane and all of a sudden you had some extreme turbulence where you felt the plane drop. That makes you a lot more nervous than when you're taking off and going up, right? So those drops are the piece that really bother you. And when you're investing, you have to realize how many of those drops, how much turbulence can you handle? What's your stress limit? And invest accordingly so you don't decide you want to get off the plane or get off the investments. So there's a lot that goes into it relating to that planning. And again, also just the turbulence. Some people handle turbulence well. On a plane, if something happens, I know that plane, like my plan, is built strongly, safely, and accordingly for that turbulence, which is just wind moving the plane up, down, left, right. My wife, not so much. I have a friend. If I go flying with him, he's going to hold my hand the whole way. You know who you are if you're watching this. He doesn't handle the turbulence well. So like a plan, I know all the parameters. I know how the plane is built. I know how my plan is built. So I'm comfortable going through that turbulence. I also know that the odds of going down because of the plane structure and the build and the pilots and the maintenance is very, very low, just like a good plan. So I also don't worry about that. Now, we all know anything can happen in reality, but a well-built plane, a well-built plan will most often get you where you need to be, even though there might be some bumps in the road and some concern. So when you fly, are you looking up to see how high you can go? Or are you looking down concerned about how far you may fall? In your financial plan, are you always just looking up thinking it never goes down? Or are you looking down concerned how far it could fall? We're getting into a year here in 2026 where there's likely going to be a bit more volatility than we've seen, even though we've been seeing more and more volatility. We have midterm elections. We have a lot going on this year. And I think a lot of people are looking down and concerned. So just make sure that your plan is set up accordingly. So whatever that distance might be that you fall, you're able to weather it, just like the turbulence on a plane. So I'm flying tomorrow. I'm going to be thinking about this again. Now, speaking of turbulence, I'm flying to Las Vegas. So let's add a little more volatility into my life. So wish me luck. Hopefully I do well at the tables. I'm going to be on a giant podcast. Like I said, we'll be talking more about that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. When you fly, feel comfortable. When you plan, be comfortable. If you're not, we're here to help. Jerry Citarella, looking out for you always. Have a great day.